About 2 years ago, I started reporting on a story about a cyberstalker who was harassing this middle aged couple in Phoenix, Arizona. In my podcast, I call them Claudia and David Rodriguez, but their real name is Tanya and Rick Fernandez. The reason why I changed their name was because when I started reporting on this story, I initially thought they were the victims of a cyberstalker. And during the course of my investigation, and a couple days after I released my podcast, a grand jury convened and charged Rick and Tanya Fernandez with 6 felony charges. In other words, the victims are now being accused of being the stalkers themselves. Now, this is my first conversation ever with Tanya and Rick Fernandez. This took place 2 years ago. I never intended to use the video for it, but it is interesting to listen to this conversation from the point of view of, are these people making this whole thing up? Or are they really victims of a sadistic cyberstalker? All right, but before you watch this video, let me give you some context because it's a little hard to follow. Tanya and Rick have an adult daughter who still sees a pediatric surgeon. Now, Tanya and Rick allege that the daughter's doctor's husband is the one doing the cyberstalking. Let me repeat that. Their adult daughter still sees a pediatric surgeon, and Tanya and Rick believe that the doctor's husband is the one cyberstalking them. And this has allegedly been going on for 3 years. Well, during the course of my investigation, I start to realize that a lot of things aren't adding up. For instance, the number one evidence in this whole case that really puts everything into question is the fact that some of the messages being sent to Tanya and Rick Fernandez were originated from their own IP address, meaning those messages came from their house. Now, it could be Tanya and Rick sending these messages, or it could be one of their 5 children, who most of them are adults. Or it could really be this doctor's husband, which doesn't make sense. The thing that's important is that during the course of my investigation, I find out that these Instagram accounts that were used to send these messages were created before Tanya and Rick were ever patients of that doctor. In other words, why would the doctor's husband cyberstalk this family if they weren't even patients of that doctor yet? They wouldn't even have known about them. Okay, so I'm going to play you my first interview with Tanya and Rick. Remember, I recorded this thinking that I was only going to use the audio, but here it is. The entire interview, I had made only a few edits. Let me know what you think. I guess before we start, I mean, what are you hoping to get out of this? I mean, because I always ask people that because I don't ever want what I'm doing to make your matters worse, or
Right.
it would be nice if it could actually help your situation.
Right. That's what I want. I want our story. I'm tired of being silenced.
Yeah.
I want the story out about what can happen to the average family,
Mm-hmm.
and in the cyber world, and how people can get away with it, with doing things because law enforcement does not want to tackle it. They don't.
And also what it can do to your mental health. I mean, it's affected me in a detrimental way. And I really don't want anyone else to have to go through what I personally have gone through and what I've been accused of. And I mean, it's kind of challenging my motherhood, my womanhood, my marriage in a way, just with the things that have been said. And it's an insult.
Yeah.
It's an insult.
To fast forward to the end of the timeline, that you sent me, the police did an investigation and they're like, wait a minute, no, it's coming from your house. It's your
Right.
IP
Yes.
address. So I'm very curious to dig into that, but I think the only way that this will make sense to me and to my listeners is to really start from the beginning, because I have a lot of questions about the Instagram accounts. A lot of the ones that you listed in that timeline are no longer active, but then I did just find one that is. And
Oh, did you?
and then I found the person the people that he was following. It's all porn. So
Really?
Wow.
yeah. So yeah,
I'm
and that was
interested
just
in
like
that.
a quick search. So
Well, you'll have to tell me
I wonder
about
how
more
I
of
found
that.
that. I have no. I was just typing stuff and then it popped up. So
Wow.
and it's not a handle that you provided me. It's a new one. So
Okay, so let me ask you this. Anything that we say, are you using this for a podcast or are we just having a conversation?
I think I'm recording it in case it does end up in the podcast.
Well,
Right.
the reason why I ask is because recently, like in the last probably couple months, Rick wrote a narrative and we went to the television stations. There's a local newspaper here called the New Times, and specifically a reporter that Rick looked up.
I basically didn't know how I could get
Our story out.
our story out. And we quickly found out that nobody wants to touch it because
It's because of a
lawsuits.
yeah, a defamatory
Yeah.
lawsuit,
Right.
which I understand that, but on the flip side, we've been smeared terribly and there's not anything like we can do about it. Well, the thing is everything is alleged, and the detective that worked on our case told our attorney that the other party were the victims and we're the perpetrators. So that's the scary part.
Because of the home internet,
Right.
how he made it look like it came from our house.
Right.
That's
That's
why.
interesting. And so, like, if I were to tackle this story, I would definitely try to get their side, like I said earlier, but also get into the bottom of how do you do that? How do you fake an IP address? I thought that was the whole point. Like, I don't know the answer to that, but I know people that do know the answers.
Allegedly, this person works for the internet company that we used.
Yeah.
And he said if he works for this company or has a friend that works where they have access to records, so they could, I don't know if it's called spoofing, or they can literally copy your ID number and then use it to make it look like it's coming from your address.
Interesting.
Plus,
And that's the kind of stuff that I would look into, because it would sound really good from a cybersecurity expert saying.
Right. He also said any tech savvy 12-year-old could literally pull up in front of your home, and if you have an open portal, they can get in, and we don't know what we're doing. We know that he was on our property because he took a picture. This was like a year and a half ago. He took a picture of what you would see from our front yard, out, not of himself.
A sunrise.
Yeah, sunrise.
And I know it was the day that he said it was because it had rained the night before.
And there was puddles.
Water in the gutter. And it doesn't rain here much.
No.
So,
right. You're out west somewhere?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he waited a couple of hours, and then he texted it to Rick and said he had been in our neighborhood and it was a beautiful morning and blah, blah, blah. But we recognized it as being from our property.
Right.
So, this has been a nightmare.
So if you don't mind, let's start from the beginning, because I have tons of questions, and I think that timeline, I don't usually get something this thorough, to work with. So this is nice in terms of helping me understand a little bit, but there's so many things that I want to ask you.
I want him to start on how it started.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, that's definitely where we need to start, because that's what everybody's going to wonder. How did this start? I mean, how did you become a victim of a stalker?
Right. Well, what happened is Well, first of all, the healthcare professional, I'll put it that way, that helped my daughter. She has the last name is unique. It's not common. And so I had a Instagram page because I'm interested in photography. I still have it, but I'm interested in getting into the photography field and selling prints and different artistic prints. And anyway, my daughter really likes to look at the Instagram and look. She has health issues, so she likes to look at the at pictures and all that and videos. And anyway, she was looking at my page, and she noticed that a person that liked it was a man profile that had the same last name as her doctor,
As her medical.
as her medical provider. And she said, I wonder if that's her husband. And I'm always trying to accommodate my kids with their interests. And so I said, I don't know. Do you want, she goes, well, why don't you ask him, So I messaged and said, would you happen to be her husband? And he said, I am. And so then from then on, it like the proverbial saying, it opened a can of worms. He expressed interest in my photography. He expressed interest in maybe me teaching him how to use his camera. And he later on he incorporated the supposed profile of his brother and said, my brother, he goes, I would like a family portrait. We don't have any pictures of me and my wife. He wants a family portrait. And then soon enough, he brought his brother in too.
A profile
Supposedly of his brother. And he was wanting his brother to get involved too. He said, I think he used the words, I found a legit photographer to do family portraits. And he brought in the profile who was supposed to be his brother.
And then he brought in his mother. And then the fourth profile was the brother's wife, so his sister-in-law. And so me being a female, I always think about if my husband was going to surprise me with family photos, I would want to make sure that a female in my wife's life was involved to pick out the right clothing and the right look. So Rick gave me the contact profile, and I contacted it and said, hey, I'm who I am, and I'm kind of his helper, and I would ask maybe her friend or her family to help you coordinate her clothing, because that's kind of a big deal to surprise somebody with pictures. And he even specified an area of the state that we live in for the photos. So we went on a scouting trip to scout out the right area for these photos, and we took a lot of time and energy doing that. And everything was going well, and he acted kind of odd.
What, was he there with you?
No, this was all done through Instagram.
It was all done through messaging from Instagram.
So you were
Right.
scouting this area and just sending him pictures of the surrounding area.
Yeah, he had a specific area in mind that's popular for travelers to visit. And so we happened to be going up that way that weekend. So we decided to make a pit stop and scout out the area to see where would be the optimal places for lighting and, beautiful spots to get photos. So anyway, he just started acting a little bit bizarre. He told me that he has like ADHD and he can't control himself. And he just kept saying, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I don't know if I can keep a secret. I'm so excited. And he wanted the photos done like 3 months down the road. So this was just an abnormal thing. Like, I'm so excited. And we both thought that was really weird.
Yeah, he was acting very strange, and I'm not a texter, so he would text me, and I got to the point where I just ignored him because I couldn't catch up with all that.
Yeah, and so let me get this straight. So you're a photographer. Is it more of a hobby, or is it a profession?
It's a hobby right now. I have a graphic design background, and I'm incorporating my love for digital photography into creating art, photographic art. So that's what I'm doing.
Essentially, this is a very rare gig for you, right? Very
Yeah.
rare side gig, because you're not taking wedding pictures, you're not taking quinceañera pictures, or this
Right.
is like a one and done type of deal, right?
And I was very new with photography at that time. So to have a potential job already, it brought a level of excitement to our lives, you know.
We were excited because I really had a high level of respect for this medical professional, and to be able to do something for her as a surprise, like, I just thought that was going to be the coolest thing ever. And my daughter, that was her favorite medical provider. So we were excited to do it.
And my daughter has an extensive medical history. So she has developed a distrust for most doctors. So for her to have this doctor as one of her favorites speaks volumes.
Right. So after the whole excitement of, him constantly texting us, saying how excited he was, he kind of got friendly with me, which I didn't really care, as long as you're appropriate, But he said, "Can I ask you a question?" And I said, "Yeah." And he started asking me things like, just things about his wife's relationship with his brother, that they spent time together, and it bothered him. And he asked me if that would bother me if my husband did that. And I said, yeah. I personally, that would bother me, but I don't know why you're asking me this, So he was just giving us a lot of personal information about their relationship, and it was just very, very strange. And then the sister-in-law started communicating with me, because ironically, the brother and sister-in-law had a handicapped child that had a lot of the same disabilities that our own daughter has. So I thought that was kind of, ironic, but I'm all about advocacy. So if a mother needs help with, finding a doctor, finding a therapist, anything, I'm all about advocacy, because I struggled through that when our daughter was younger. It was hard. So I wanted to help her through the system, so to speak. So we became kind of like really good friends, even though it was through Instagram texting. We became really good, like, mom friends.
We never ever spoke physically.
No.
With any of these profiles. It was all through texting.
Right. And there would be times where, well, she told me that this medical professional and her spouse had a lot of serious relationship issues, and it was just really weird. And I said, this is not something I'm really interested in. But she was venting. So and so at one point, I told this sister-in-law profile, I said, a lot of things that you're telling me just don't resonate with me very well, because we have a high moral code and we don't live that way. We don't, that's just wrong. And so she said, "What do you mean by you have a high moral code?" And I told her, we're Jehovah's Witnesses, and we live by Bible standards, and we take it very seriously. And she said, "Oh, I love Jehovah's Witnesses. When they come to my door, I get excited. I don't even know what to say." And so she starts showing an interest in our belief system. So you could ask any Jehovah's Witness on the planet. If someone shows an interest in your belief system, then what you want to do is share it.
Right.
And so that's what I did. She asked me biblical questions, I answered. And then she would say things like, wow, I never knew that. That's amazing. And then she'd ask me another one, I would answer it. This went on for
They would have hour-long conversations.
hours long. And
But
so that
let me interrupt you, because you said, you almost implied that there was like inappropriate conversations happening. What was it that she was saying that was inappropriate?
well, she okay. I think she was thinking that I was going to be some type of a whistleblower. She told me that the doctor or the medical professional had an alcohol problem and that she was doing medical procedures on patients while she was intoxicated, and that she had a loose moral code and was having flings and this, that, and the other. And
This is about your daughter's doctor that
yes.
you really respect.
Yes. And I just told her, I go, listen, I said, that's her personal life. And I have a different relationship with her. She's my daughter's favorite doctor. So, and at one point the profile asked me, about my daughter, and we were like moms talking. So I didn't feel uncomfortable sharing with her because things that she told me about her daughter made sense. And so we were kind of like comparing notes back and forth. Well, does your daughter do this? And well, no, my daughter didn't do that at that age, blah, blah, blah. So I didn't really feel uncomfortable with her, but there was a few red flag moments, and I would question her, and then she would kind of make it where everything was okay. Like, yeah. But I will say that, which I don't want to mention names again on a podcast, the husband.
Oh, was the one that you contacted.
The initial contact.
Right. So, but he got kind of bizarre after a couple of weeks because I think he knew he could rattle my cage by saying things like, he was talking about his wife. She never came home, and when she comes home, I'm going to beat her up, stuff like that. And it would upset me. And I'm like, don't do that.
Right.
Like, go get help, go get counseling. Like, if you have an anger problem, that's not the way to handle it. Well, she came home and I pushed her. And if you see her again, she has a scratch on her arm, and it's stuff like that. And at one point he kept me up all night on it was like the weekend or the week of 4th of July of 2019. And he said, guess where I am? And I said, I don't know. And he said, I'm in the parking lot of the hospital where his wife worked.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I'm going to sit here all night and wait for her to show up. I'm going to kill her. And he kept me up all night, and I'm like hysterical, and I'm like nudging him like he's going to kill her. And, he said things like, I'm going to stab her in the neck, and I'm in McDonald's and I'm going to buy her favorite food and shove it down her throat and tape her mouth so she chokes on it. And I'm going to take her out into the desert and burn her body. And I'm a mess.
I've got something very important to interject right here. It will verify the feelings here toward his wife. I at one of my daughter's appointments, shortly after we contacted this individual asking if that's her husband.
It was immediately.
I asked her, I told her during this appointment, I said, so your husband liked one of my pictures on Instagram. She had a look on her face like she saw a ghost. It wasn't happy. It was just like, she was
nervous.
Yeah. She had like a nervous look on her face. And
she ignored him.
I found that to be really weird, really strange.
Yeah, because it seems to me that her two worlds, like George Costanza says, were colliding. You know what I mean?
Right.
I
this
think
professional world and this crazy husband.
Well,
Right.
I think that she thought we would never have the nerve to ever say anything, because he also said things like, well, the profile that you mentioned, the sister-in-law and the gym profile, they both told me, never tell her that you're communicating with her family because she will get very upset. So they kind of like put the fear of God in me, like, don't ever say anything because she's going to get really mad about it. And I wanted the photos to happen for her because, that would be amazing to be able to do that.
Time out, because that's what I wanted to ask you guys.
Yeah.
At what point do you say, hey, this photo shoot we're calling it off? This is crazy. He's threatening to kill his wife and all this stuff. I mean,
That's
at what point? Because this sounds
when it got to the point where he was making death threats and like that, that's when Tanya and I spoke and we said, you know what? If there is a shoot, it's not going to be a happy one.
No.
So this is off. And I think I was the one that actually told Tanya, I'm not doing it. It's crazy.
Right. And he would taunt us like, well, you're still going to do it because you said you would, and we're still doing it. And I'm like, we're not doing it. We are not going to do it. So, there was a lot of stuff that went on. Like I said, somebody came to our convention that happened in our city because there were things that happened at our convention that only someone who was there would know. And so,
like
making comments about the speaker that was talking at the time, and making comments about how he looked.
Yeah, so the Stephanie profile claimed she wanted to come, and I said, that's great. If you want to come, I'll help you with your kids, whatever. Well, she just became more and more extra. she would be like, I'm on the light rail, I'm not on the light rail. I'm on the light rail, I'm not on the light rail. I'm on the light rail, back and forth. Supposedly the doctor or the medical professional was going to be at the same convention helping her with her kids, which I thought was crazy. So then that profile,
your daughter's doctor was going to be at the same.
I thought that was so nuts. I'm like, wow. And by the way, there was like 45,000 people there.
It was an international convention.
It was a huge deal.
People from around the world were there.
Yes, reached out to me and said, hey, I'm this doctor's sister, and we're here at this stadium, and we're sitting in section whatever. And so I get excited and grab my kid, and we run over there, and we wouldn't see anybody. Like, that looked familiar. And then she texts and say, well, actually, we're walking around. We're over here now. Now we're over here. Now we're over here. This went on for 3 days. 3 days of them just having me running all over the place in the stadium. So I just got sick of it. Did you think
it was weird, though, that that this guy, the husband, all these other people in his life, his sister-in-law, his brother, all these people are messaging you? Do they have like actual mature Instagram accounts, like in terms of, do they have lots of pictures or were they kind of very bare bones?
Well, Tanya noticed something very interesting in common between all of the accounts. They would have they would have the name and then a number, like maybe their age,
like so and so 40,
and then they would have like a certain amount of people that they follow and a certain amount of followers,
and they were all the same.
Yeah, it was all about the same amount.
And they were all private accounts, and we're not savvy. Like, we're not really into Instagram. We didn't notice it until everything blew up. And mid-August that year, we finally had enough. And I said, you know what? I told my best friend, I said, I'm getting creeped out. I'm going to do a Ben Verified on the doctor and find out if any of these people actually exist in her life. I found out that no, only one, or actually there is a Stephanie, but she doesn't live in this state. She lives in another state. But most everybody didn't exist. And so I knew right then that we had been duped. So this was mid-August, and I threatened to call the police, and they all shut down and stopped talking. So I thought, okay, fine. They're going to leave us alone now. And so 2 weeks later, my daughter had a surgical procedure by this medical professional, and we were in a private room. It was him and myself and the professional, the doctor, and she was just giving us an update about the surgery. You know, the door was shut. And then I said, I need to tell you something that's really uncomfortable. And I said, my husband and I have been harassed by someone claiming to be your family members. And they've threatened to kill you. They've told us some not so nice things about you. And it really bothers me, and I'm worried for your safety. And I know that you're a victim and that we're victims too. And I wouldn't feel right about not telling you. And she got flushed and she said, this happened to me one other time, and maybe you'll be my guardian angel and figure out who it is. So, you know,
Im-
Figure out who it is.
and figure it out. That's what she said.
Does she not admit that that was her husband?
Mm-mm. She claimed that they didn't have social media, which isn't true, because they
Oh,
both.
so okay, so you didn't mention that. So the first time you confronted her about this, you said she had this ghostly look on her face.
right.
Did she say anything, or was it the second time that she said, "Oh, yeah, that's not us. That's somebody else"?
It's the second
sec-
time.
The second time, it was post surgery, and we were in a small conference room.
She actually didn't say, oh, we don't have social media. She just said that someone had harassed her before on social media, and she didn't give us a lot of details, but she said, maybe you'll be my guardian angel and help figure it out. Okay, I'm all for that, because I don't like to see anybody victimized. So then she went and got the security guard from this facility, and he met us at our daughter's bedside. She was still waking up, you know, she was sedated. And he asked me why I didn't call the police. And I said, well, the Stephanie profile said that she was going to when the death threat was made in July, and that's her family. And so I figured that the police had already been called. And then the doctor came by and whispered something to the security guard that I couldn't really, I couldn't hear what she said. But the nurse who was caring for my child asked the doctor, hey, what's going on? You know, because we got a security guard there. And the doctor said, it's none of your concern. It's none of your concern.
She
So
was
don't
really
worry. Very rude.
She was agitated.
Yeah, like really agitated. And it was like something we had never seen before, you know, like a different side of her, like, you know. And then she didn't say goodbye or anything to us. She just turned around and walked away. So the security guard told us that he had called the police and that they were on their way. Well, we sat there for 2.5 hours and they never showed up. So my daughter was discharged and we went home, and I thought, well, they'll show up here, you know, to ask us questions and what have you. And they never came. So, which I thought was kind of strange. So a day and a half later, I get a message on Instagram from the supposed real husband. And he said, I'm really, really sorry that this happened to you. And my wife told me what happened. And we're both very, very sorry. It happened one other time. And I want to talk to you. And I said, no, I don't trust you. I don't trust anybody on social media. And I'm only going to deal with her.
He knew information that we exchanged in confidence with the doctor.
Yes.
For instance, like what?
Well, he knew that that she had us talk to the security guy, and he also used a term that she used. She
Yes.
told us, she says, would you talk to my go-to person?
When she went to get
And
the security
her
guard.
go-to person she went to get was the captain of security of the hospital. So during the conversation a couple days later, he used that term. He said, go-to person. I'm her go-to person.
He got super aggressive because I kept saying, no, we're not going to meet you. No, we're not going to talk to you. And I said, I'm only going to deal with her.
And at that time, when he said, I'm her go-to person, we actually were thinking that it was the security guard.
Right.
The security captain that is the one that's doing all this, because he said, I'm her go-to person.
Right. So then this conversation went on for hours. He kept saying, I want to meet you. I said, no, I'm only going to talk to her. He says, you want to talk to her? Here's her cell phone number. So he sends me a number. I went on Been Verified. Sure enough, it was one of their numbers. I decided to call it because I had a good relationship with this medical professional. And I left a message. It wasn't anything unprofessional. It was, hi, I'm so-and-so. And I think I know who this is. Please call me back. She never called me back. So then the next day I had their email. So I emailed it, same message. This is, so-and-so. And I'm pretty sure I know who this is. Could you please call me? And then the next day, which was on a Monday, I texted her the same message. I mean, it wasn't anything inappropriate, like, hey, what you up to? You want to meet for coffee? It was, I think I know who it is. Would you please get a hold of me? And she told the police that I was harassing her and that I was like stalking her because I called her, I emailed her, and I texted her.
How do you know she told the police this?
Because the police told us that. The police told me that it wasn't normal for me to look up my child's doctor on Been Verified, and that it creeped her out that I knew where her address was, and it bothers her that anybody would know where she lives, and she doesn't want me bothering her anymore. But I was like, she's the one that said she wanted us to be her go-to.
Maybe you'll be her guardian.
Yeah, maybe I'll be her guardian
Help her
angel.
figure it out.
And then she's telling them that I'm harassing her. So I left her alone. I thought, okay, fine. You asked me for my help. I'm trying. And then you turn on me. So then immediately, my daughter had an appointment to see her in 2 weeks for a post-op appointment. And her office called and said that this doctor was no longer available to do my daughter's post-op appointment. And she pushed her off to a different provider, which really upset me. I'm thinking, this is ridiculous. All I did was warn her that her life could possibly be in danger and someone's impersonating her family. And now my daughter is being punished, So we went to that appointment and I wasn't very happy. And we basically were asked not to come back because my daughter was considered overage for this facility. But the thing was that we had an agreement that she was going to help us find the right doctor for her before we got discharged.
Yeah.
So for them to just automatically just say, don't come back, like go find a different provider, it upset me. We weren't really given a choice. So on the way home that day, I told my husband, I said, you know what, I don't feel comfortable. I don't feel comfortable here anymore. Something's not right. Because we had been there. We had gone to the hospital a couple of times and asked them for help. We'd asked them to please help us, that we were being stalked, and they refused to talk to us. They refused. In fact, one time security guards circled us and escorted us off the property. And so eventually we got a certified letter from this place that basically said there was a breach of doctor-patient confidentiality and do not come back. Do not use any of our providers.
Our entire family.
Our entire family. And one of my other kids was getting ongoing treatment in one of the clinics. So
Sure.
We had to scramble to find new providers. So the way I feel is like, I don't understand why she didn't take us by the hand and take us down to hospital administration and say, hey, this family's being stalked. I'm being stalked. We need help. No, that's not what happened. She told the police at one point that I have a mental problem and I am harming my daughter and doing things to her because I have a fetish for her.
In fact, that's in the
Police report.
In the police report.
Yeah.
She told the police that she had a suspicion that my wife was causing harm to my daughter, like a Munchausen by proxy.
Right. And which is a major insult to me because
Right.
You know, like I pride myself in taking excellent care of our 2 disabled adult kids, and it's a hard job. It's a really hard job. And for her to put that out there when she doesn't really even know us, like that's a major insult.
Right.
So, anyway, during the investigation, which was from the beginning of October to the beginning of January, we were told to just sit quiet. But I have to back up a little bit. This guy put a threat out to our home, and he said, "I'm in your neighborhood and I'm going to kill your family. I'm going to kill you."
All right, so that was part 1 of my very first conversation with Tanya and Rick Fernandez. I broke this video up into 2 pieces. If you want to watch part 2, just look for it. It's in my YouTube feed. But if you want to listen to the entire story, my entire investigation, the best place to do that is to listen to my season 12 on the Pretend podcast. You'll have every detail. I spoke to multiple witnesses, experts, a white hat ethical hacker, and you'll even get to hear from the detectives yourself. So stick around for part 2 and make sure to subscribe to my channel. Thanks.